I'm Galestian, DJ, producer, and founder of Global Entry Recordings. I also host Global Entry Radio on over 40 stations worldwide. I've been featured on Spotify editorial playlists like Electronic Rising and coach independent producers to level up their skills. Across from me, we have Basil Amro from the Netherlands. Basil has been running events since 2010 and is the founder of Basic Grooves, known for its underground shows in Enschede and the Onder De Radar Festival held on an abandoned military airbase. He also programs events for Touwshaven in Amsterdam and curates both legal and not-so-legal club nights, including a secret one on the harbor. To my left is Piotr from Audioriver Festival in Poland. Piotr's been the music programmer and booker for Poland's Audioriver Festival, which is a 30,000 cap multi-genre event since its debut in 2006. He also books club nights across Poland and brings nearly 2 decades of insight into curating large-scale lineups. And last but not least, Ruben Snouwaert, sitting across from me here. From Belgium, Ruben's the booker for Kompass Club, Rave Rebels, and Garage Club, 3 of Belgium's leading electronic music institutions. Kompass Club is based in Kent and is an internationally respected venue with a 10-year legacy. Garage Club, launched in Antwerp in 2024, is powered by the Kompass team and already making waves in the local scene. Ruben also curates the lineups for Rave Rebels, Belgium's biggest indoor rave, attracting 15,000 visitors per day. The event celebrates its 10th edition with a special weekender this year in November 7th and 8th. So, with that said, we're going to turn over to the audience here and ask you guys how many people here are promoters and how many are not promoters. Anybody organizing your own events here? Show of hands, raise them high. Don't be shy. Okay, we got one. So, do you have any burning questions for us before we get started as a promoter? Maybe we can pass the mic over to him. Spotlight's on you. It's a very rare position to be in.
So, hi, I'm just a part-time promoter doing smaller raves in Hamburg. So, just wanted to hear and see your experience about the stuff. No questions so far, but maybe later.
Okay. Have you been doing events for a while already, or?
Yeah, like 2 years, but mostly because I'm playing myself, so it's a great space to play yourself.
Amazing. Okay, last chance. Anybody else here? Okay, so then over to our panelists here. How do you book your artist lineup today, and how has that strategy evolved over time? Anybody can take this.
I'll take this one.
Yeah.
So what I really need to do, but also like to do nowadays, is really work top to bottom. Everybody knows nowadays artists are playing way more countries than it used to be. With that, I mean that techno used to be a very big thing in Europe for many years. Nowadays, there's always somewhere a festival going on. There's always somewhere a summer period. If it's not in Asia, it's in Australia during the winter in Belgium and vice versa. So I really need to work way sooner nowadays to have like my big headliners on time before they take on another gig. So what I really like to do is when I go towards a calendar or creating a calendar is like see where will I put what headliner, and now I'm mostly talking about the clubs. Once I have it settled with all the headliners, like for a couple of months, for many weeks, then I'm really looking at, okay, what could be like a B headliner, a co-headliner. Then I go towards the local scene, which is also very important for us as a club. I always like to have the perfect symbiosis of a headliner coming together with very strong locals that really play the same genre. And I've been noticing that trying to make an event with just a headliner, it works, it always works, but it's always very much stronger once you commit to the local scene and you really attract people or fans or friend groups from the local DJs as well. So to define what I just said, I really like to work top to bottom, headliners to our B headliners, and then local scene to always make sure a night is fully curated in the way we want and the way it sells nowadays.
I mean, what you said, it's quite relevant. We need to start much earlier than in the past. I mean, as soon as we finish our festival, we have to sit down to the next or whatever spreadsheet you use and start planning. But in general, the work has not changed for us. What changed is who we choose and why we choose. In the past, I would say it was us choosing the lineup, promoters deciding who we want to promote. And now it's a bit different game because we are living out of the ticket sales. So now we have to think how to sell the tickets. And for different events, different markets, that's a completely different story. And for us, it's now understanding what our guests want or will want very soon. So we now try to blend what's new, fresh with the past and try to blend it into some kind of a lineup that makes happy some of our older followers who still like to come to the festival, but also to bring some new exciting acts, to think sometimes out of the box and try to figure out what will be hot in half year, because that's how fast things happen now. Someone who is not relevant, or the artist who is not really, or who is under the water, let's say, in September might be super hot in January. And if in case you build a lineup based on an event which is based, or which ticket sales are based on an artist lineup, you need to like really follow up what's going on, be close to the market, but also do not forget about your roots, because there are some followers which are old enough to remember when you started and they still like to go. So it's a bigger matrix than in the past. Takes longer, more stressful, definitely. And yeah, but still kind of a lot of fun to when you finally complete it and make, like, let's say, book 60% out of it, because that's maybe your success rate from what your target was.
Great. Anything to add to that?
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree that indeed it's similar, but it got a lot more complicated last few years. And one particular thing that I would say really changed for me, and I think for a big part of the scene, I mean, everything is moving very fast, also in our industry. And I have a percentage of my lineup that I reserve for hype. Basically, I don't have a set percentage, but more like in my head, I'm prepared to have a couple of artists. That's like almost like a bit of a gamble, you know, because I also want to have a whole considerable part of the lineup where it shows quality artists that have been doing this for a good few years, that, you know, like it's gonna hit some people's minds, you know, hit some hearts. But like I have, because I work at this club, and there's a lot of people working behind the bar that are like a lot younger than me, and I know that the average age at our events is lower than my age, you know, so after a while you can't keep up with all those hypes anymore. So a lot of those people that work at the bar, I like to speak to them and just say, which artists have you been following lately? And they are very enthusiastic to tell, of course, a booker which artists you really have to book. And sometimes they come really with suggestions that blow my mind, you know, and that's why I say I have a percentage of the lineup that I have reserved for such artists. And I think that's a big difference between what I do now and 4 years ago.
So the market research comes to you.
Yeah, because you're right, because if they come with a suggestion and you end up booking it, that's a very happy moment for them. So they are flattered, so they love coming back to you and say like, oh, by the way, remember when I gave you this tip? You should check out this artist. And it's actually a very fun interaction.
There's actually a club in LA that I used to go to, and the head promoter would always kind of pull the club goers to see, you know, who do you guys want to see next? And if there was an overwhelming response, and it was pretty obvious that, you know, this is directly coming from your audience. So.
100%, exactly. Yeah.
I also wanted to add to that since last edition of Rave Rebels, we also introduced a way for ticket buyers to give up names before or after they bought a ticket that they would like to see at our events. I think it's a step we took because we're now at a point where we can really notice how many returning customers we have. And that means that these customers, whatever they want to see at Rave Rebels, comes aligned with what we would like to bring. And that's also something we've never done before. We started doing it since last edition in April, a month ago, and we already got so many requests of people. And then you just analyze it, look at what's like the most exclusive of the list, what people really would like to see, what would be the hardest to book, and then we just go for it. And that's also something that's different from back in the days. I have this one mentor who also used to book for the Fuse, and he always used to tell me, before internet, what I really did to find out what the people wanted was go to a vinyl shop. Once there's like a new release of an act or something, you stand in the corner of the vinyl shop and you just look at whatever vinyl or whatever copy gets sold 3 times in a row or 3 times in a day. And that could already tell you a little bit what's popular in the region. So you would like to jump and book that act.
Solid. Earlier you mentioned headliners, so do you still think headliners are necessary to sell at a festival, and if so, how do you go about doing that? Or do you think experience-driven concepts can carry the show instead?
I think it goes hand in hand. We've noticed, especially for Rave Rebels, which can have a capacity of 15K visitors a day, it's really important to have big shots on the lineup. I think once you have these big artists who get a lot of attention, people will start talk about it, and that way you can reach more customers. So yeah, it's definitely still very important at my side to look at the headliners first. But what we also do then, in hand-to-hand, is really push our production to differentiate ourselves, to make a difference between us and our rivalry or the other festivals in the scene, who are maybe going stronger on lineup, but a little stronger in production. So for us, yeah, we think it goes hand in hand. Good headliners together with like a unique production.
Anybody else?
I mean, in our case, it's a lineup-driven festival. So yeah, for us, it's necessary to have headliners, whoever you think headliner is, but someone who is headlining. But saying that there's a lot of events which are not headline act-driven, which I admire and like, and it's really something else. And I think it's like it's a question, how do you build your concept? What is your nightclub, festival, whatever, and then we can see, and I can see events which are doing as good without the headliners, and that's actually something which I admire because that takes much more work. And the idea how to attract people outside of the lineup. Lineup is a simple thing, especially now in the social media time when you go to the TikTok and Instagram and you see I don't know, maybe 100 artists which are showing up every now and then, rather than have down to earth lineup, but something else which will attract people, atmosphere, production, I don't know, unique location, a community that you build. That's something I would really encourage people to think more about when they start to promote nights or when they start to create a night, rather than just look into the lineup, because to some extent it's a trap which many events are in, including ourselves. But that's how it is, how I see the things.
What would you say is the best way to build that community?
If I know the golden recipe, I would be selling it for a lot of money, but there's no golden recipe. It's a hard work, dedication, being connected with the people around you in the area you want to do the festival. There's no shortcut to that, and it's really also a lot of consistency in what you do, and also you need to find the ground that what you do is accepted by your community and a large number of people. It's not easy to say. I mean, I don't have a golden rule for that.
So for promoters who are doing both clubs and festivals, how do your clubs help inform your festival programming?
So we now have 2 clubs. One is in Hand Kompass Club and one is in Antwerp Garage Club. And in Belgium, we strictly really work with a festival season and a club-in season. Kompass is now celebrating its 10th year, and it's been the same schedule on a yearly basis for those 10 years, which is we have Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, but we do a summer close-in from May until September. Why? Because Belgium is a small country. It's very hard to compete with the festivals as a club. We all know going out, raving became way more expensive. So of course, people are during that period looking at festivals before they look at clubs. So what we do is, if I do a festival in November, like now we do Rave Rebels, again in November, I really try to book some acts during Q1 and Q2 and the clubs to see what they're actually made of, how many customers they can attract, etc. And then from the club step, we go to the Rave Rebel step, and it's really fun to also work together with acts, maybe acts who are still coming up a little bit. You can, of course, make these deals where you say, okay, you can play both of our clubs, 2 club shows within 2-3 months. And then once these 2 shows go well, we can look at a bigger venue or a bigger show. And then I always try to build up this relationship with acts, really try it out in the clubs. And depending on the crowd reaction, we take it to a bigger stage. So it's a very helpful situation, I would say.
Yeah, with the club, you have more opportunities to experiment, you know. If you do a festival once a year, usually it's once a year, then you make your lineup, and then you see how people respond to it. And where I do the bookings, I basically have 2 experiments every week, you know, so I can I have more space to try some things, and it's like 16 or 20 artists every week that I can see how, when they play that room, how busy is it there. Oh, clearly a lot more busy since that artist started playing, so must be something going on there. So it's very informative, you know, I learn a lot there, and I can take that information to the festival. So for me, it's a very interesting playground.
Yeah, seems like a really good place to be, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, what you said is so relevant, but what is important, and I think even more important, is that the club culture is where it's all started, right? And during the year where there are maybe less festivals, or where you are less active in your festival activity, you go to the club and meet people, and then when you meet people, you talk to people, and then you hear that I've popped up on this artist, I've popped up on something, go check something else. And then you've learned about the people, artists, initiatives, events that you have not heard about, which is quite important. And then you start checking, because if you just go onto your social media, then you have what algorithm is showing you. So this is your bubble, and going into the clubs in between sometimes is gives you a perspective, which is very important to have a more broad approach and a more broad view in what you see, what you think, or what you think you know.
And what do you have to say about the rising cost of organizing festivals these days, like as far as budgeting goes?
As far as budget, I would say it like this, it's way harder to take a risk here. It's like what you also said, it's very fun to try something out and experiment in a club before taking it to a bigger stage. But we as Kompass Club, we have 3 floors, and it's very easy. It's 1 big floor, 1 middle floor, and 1 smaller floor. Whenever I really want to try out an act that I'm unsure of, then I try to base the fee on the capacity of the floor. Then we check how the act is working, and then we can take it to a bigger stage where they will attract maybe more people, or at least then we already know, okay, you've done well in a smaller room, you can take the bigger stage. But it's always a risk to try out something new. That's why I always try to have these headliners or these things that you're really sure of in the main room, because as a huge club with 2,200 capacity, it's already expensive to open the doors. So you really need to minimize the risk. It can happen that you have like a night with a headliner who's not working for whatever reason, and then you really feel the hit, especially if you have like 3 weeks in a row. If you have 1 midnight, 1 bad night, and 1 good night, then the good night basically saves the 2 other nights. So when it comes to budgeting, it's easier in a club to look at, okay, I want to try something out in a smaller room, and we keep the main room closed. Then you can minimize the budget. It's less bar staff, you can keep the ticket prices a bit lower. But yeah, it's not the promoters who became more greedy, it's just way more expensive nowadays to open the doors, and that's also coming together with more expensive tickets, of course. And if the ticket is too expensive or the act was too expensive, which makes you have more expensive tickets and you don't sell enough of them, then of course you make a huge loss. And that's, I mean, it's harder for me to take a risk nowadays, I would say it like that.
Anybody else?
Well, in terms of what changed, yeah, everything got a lot more expensive, and I noticed that we are for the first time open to look at partnerships, sponsorships, brand activations. We were never really keen on doing that, and now we are in touch with a couple of companies because it's just getting too risky, it's getting too dangerous. You know, if you look at the budget, the break-even is at a very high point, and then you might reach it, but then what if there's a rain shower during the event? Then you just lost, you know, so we are looking into that.
Okay. Earlier you mentioned how you closed down the club during the summertime because of the festivals. Do you think festivals are eating up the club scene, or can the two coexist in a healthy way together?
They can coexist in a healthy way together as long as we keep our yearly schedule, like I've told you before, where we close during the summer. It's very hard to stay open during festivals. Why, as a club, you book a headliner, and most of the ticket potential is based on that headliner. Well, if a festival announces the same headliner on top of a lot of other headliners, people who are really a fan of this one act that's playing a headline show in a club, but is also playing at a festival, I mean, it's expensive to go out, even if it's just a club or a festival. People will opt or choose for the festival instead because you can see your headliner or your favorite act on top of some other acts. So they can coexist as long as we don't go too much into each other's waters, like I've told you before.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same. Everything closes for the summer. People want to go outside, which is normal. They don't want to spend time in the pavement, which they can do for the remaining part of the year when the weather is not so nice in, let's say, in our part of Europe. But if they can coexist, they should coexist, because I think there's no one without the other. How they do it's a different game, which is becoming more complicated for everyone. But yeah, I mean, it would be interesting. I mean, well, clubs are not working in the summer, right? So, but it would be the only exception is if you can run a club which has a kind of a patio and outdoor area, and this can operate. So in some cases, what I see clubs in Poland, they close the inside area for the summer while they open outside area for the summer. Then it works somehow fine with a much lower quantity of people coming, with less headline acts playing and concentrating more on local acts, and then it works. But as a festival, I think it's really important that we nurture club culture, because without that, it would be difficult for us to survive even in mid-term, not talking the long term. We need to attract our new fans and ticket buyers, and they usually come from clubs, not that. Maybe some come from Instagram now because they saw some interesting movie, but they film or the show and they want to check, but majority should come from the clubs.
So it's a symbiotic relationship after all.
I would also like to add to that, as a smaller promoter, it's always a very good thing to have a good relationship with festivals. What I've done before is, if there's like a big festival like Tomorrowland in Belgium and they have this one super huge act that I was unable to get onto the calendar, because of trying to have a good relationship with the festival, we can get the opportunity to actually make a double deal with certain acts. They are already in the country, especially when it's like an act coming from a complete different continent or something. It's impossible to just book the act from the continent towards Belgium for just a club night. But when they are already in Belgium, you are maybe able to make a deal with the festival, make it a double deal, where you share the costs of the flights, etc., of all the hotels and stuff, and then you can do an event yourself with that one act. Also, while we close our clubs during the summer, what we do to keep our name out and not be like gone for 3 or 4 months, we do multiple stage hostings as a club. And that's also something that started from trying to have a good relationship with festivals as a club. And yeah, it's also needed nowadays for the exclusivity. You know, like I've said before, Belgium has so many festivals and so close to each other. If festivals would like to, they could put on an exclusivity on all the acts that would make it impossible as a club promoter or a club booker to fill up your calendar. Because of that good relationship, we're actually able to work together and not be too harsh on each other. Like, this act is playing a festival in July, so he can't play Belgium for 10 weeks prior, 10 weeks after. It's only good relationships that will make you get past that.
I think we have a mic problem here. Yeah, what's the mic number on there?
I don't think my mic is working. Oh, it is. Like I said, I got nothing to add. So.
Okay, so how do you, each of you here, make your festival stand out in today's oversaturated landscape?
Well, the only festival we do nowadays, completely honest, is Rave Rebels, and either you saw the footage or either you didn't. We really try to be something else when it comes to production. We've worked together with super cool art installations, Pantera and Filasfeta, and we actually made a stage design which was insanely unique. While I was also trying to get some AV shows on the lineup. We did the I Hate Models face-to-face show. We also did the 9x9 Dominion show last time. We did the new Trim AV show. And an AV show is already something, it's getting popular nowadays. As a promoter, it's kind of hard to book or work with AV shows. It brings up the price. It takes a lot more effort into production and planning out when it comes to an AV show, but it's worth it once you can combine it with a huge production. I think you could see an I Hate Models face-to-face or a 9x9 Dominion show somewhere else as well, but it was still a very unique experience by seeing it at our stage, just because our production was something unseen or something hard to find somewhere else. And of course, being unique in production doesn't always mean that you need to have a greater budget or you need to have more experience. It's mostly just trying to be creative. You know, one day there was someone who thought, okay, I'll make a 360 booth, and he was maybe the first one that did it back in the days, and he probably got popular because of it. And now you can see everybody's trying to do it. In Belgium, I've seen now 2 festivals where they are already making a 360 booth that spins around, and well, it's something I haven't seen before, but it's kind of a nice experience as a raver. So it's something new, it's something unique, and the people will know that they can only experience it at your place until someone else takes it over. But that really builds up trust and returning customers.
Anybody else?
Yeah, well, how we stay relevant is, if you look at production, we try to make it a more immersive experience. You know, that could be anything from stage design to opening the forest pathway so that people can get lost a little bit on the terrain. You know, we really feel like when you talk about staying relevant, I automatically think about the new generation. And I really do feel like they are looking for an experience, you know, not so much an open field with a stage and a bar, but they want more than that, you know. That's in terms of the production. In terms of lineup, what I just said, that I have a percentage of my lineup that I'm willing to give to like hype artists. I don't want to be disrespectful to those artists, but just for the simplicity, I'm calling them hype artists. And in terms of marketing, we are also doing some stuff I couldn't believe a few years ago that I would be doing it. But yeah, we are very active on TikTok. We are advertising on TikTok. We are even, I won't say we work with influencers, but we work with people who have accounts that are about our industry. They are techno fanatics or they are into other genres. They talk a lot about music, and we invite them to the event and hope that they will make some nice footage and post it to their channels. You know, we do a lot of stuff, anything that comes on our path. We try to do it now. Anything from offline to influencers almost.
So as far as sorry, you're going to say something. So as far as the marketing goes, you mentioned, you know, TikTok, Instagram, influencers. what's actually working right now from what you've experienced and what's not, like, print posters, or are those still relevant? Where would you say a bulk of what you're putting your efforts into is yielding you the results that you want?
Well, I think anybody who knows a little bit about marketing knows that eventually repetition is the key. The people just need to see it a lot of times. If there's some variety in there, it works. If you just see a poster every day, that's not going to impress you. But we just try to do it all. We have billboards, we do posters, and then they see it, but they don't really register it. But the next time they'll see an Instagram ad, it will be the third time they'll see it. They'll be like, okay, I keep seeing this poster. And then they'll maybe go to TikTok and see somebody speaking about the festival, that they had such a good time there. And then, etc., a newsletter. So yeah, we just try to do as much as possible and as much variety as possible. Yeah.
So to stand out is like when I thought who we were 20 years ago when we started, we were a music festival. Now we are not only the music festival. People go to festival to have an experience. And for different people, experience means something else, something different. Some people come for the big lineups and big artists, which we try to provide. But some people come to get lost and to find something new, interesting, that we try to also add to the lineups, some unexpected artists, which we ourselves barely know, but someone told us to look after. We look after that and see, okay, let's try it. So there are a lot of people who don't want to see the big headliners, and they go away to other stages, and they found quite a good experience there. Then it's a production. As colleagues said, people do not want to have only the field or the airstrip with a big stage. Some do, but some don't. So in our case, festival is kind of now divided into two sections. One section is 3 big stages, and the other section is park, where you have basically a labyrinth between the trees, a bit completely different vibe. So you can, if you don't like this huge stages and huge sound system, you can go and get lost in a park in the woods in the smaller stages with completely different design and completely different approach to the experience. And also it's quite important for people to experience not only, as we said, a sound system, bar, and then a few lights. That's how it was in the past. Now it has to have much more value in different terms. Also the food at the festival, that's plays quite what you serve people, what they can do apart from experiencing music at different chill areas, different amusement areas where they can go and get lost, talk to the friends for a few hours, go to have a good hamburger or good vegetable food, and not just a standard beer, but something in addition. That's what people are looking for, and that's also, I mean, because of all that, we are all facing this rising costs because we are trying to add value. And so to say, now this experience is becoming luxury for many people, which is a bit of a pity, but this is how it is. To stand out is you need to create a unique experience. And for big events, it's a bit difficult because doing a small event, you experience 500 people, 1,000 people. That can be quite easy. For doing a big mass event, it's becoming now, you really have to sit and think out of the box what we do next to differentiate from what's on the market.
Okay.
What I wanted to add to the marketing discussion is think outside of the box. To stay relevant, you need to do things that maybe someone else isn't doing. And a very good example is the interactiveness with our customers, with us, started before the event. So our team from the last Rave Rebels was like gaming in some sort of way, a bit of Matrix, a bit of a digital team. And what we actually did was we sat together with a game developer. We built Space Invaders, but then actually a Rave Rebels edition. So someone developed a pure Space Invaders game in the complete signature of Rave Rebels. We've put it on our site, and what we did is it was public, and everybody who played the game every week, the 3 people with the highest high score were able to get like some merch or a free ticket. And that caused a lot of interactiveness. We could see people 2 months, 3 months prior to the festival already spamming their stories with their high scores, etc. And it's one of the coolest ideas we've ever done. And it was something that just came up to us during the office and during office hours. And then we thought like, okay, how impossible is this? And once you start looking for people who think alike with you, it's cool to bring up something like that. It was something very cool.
I saw a few new people come in. Anybody here promoting their own events, organizing their own events? Show of hands. Okay.
Say everyone wants to be an artist these days.
What would you say your newest take on the newest generation is? Are they showing up to festivals even though they statistically drink less and go to clubs less? Or are you planning on reaching them, or are you intentionally targeting older audiences? Are there trade-offs that come with that decision?
Well, that's a question. Who are the people at the festival and what kind of event are you? I know a lot of events which are kind of less fresh in terms of the lineups with a much older crowd, and then I don't think they have that issue, at least not the spending on the bar issue. But if you talk young generation, they drink less. That's the fact. And then you have to face it. How do you make this lost, or maybe not lost, but how do you fill the gap? Well, easy question with the tickets prices, but that's also a trap, because we are forcing people into spending much more money into entertainment, which we are actually, and then it becoming very luxury thing for them to do. So yeah, for us, it's like we want to be in a certain age group as a festival, not too young, not too old. Then we try to, to move out and try to, well, in Poland, some 15 years ago, no one was talking about vegetable food at the festival, right? 10 years ago, this young generation prefers vegetable food, or there's more vegetable lovers. So we need to bring that to the festival. Okay, people don't want to have just one beer at the festival. They want to drink some craft beers. They want to have selection, right? It's not just one type of alcohol they want to drink, or not one type of food. So same with the music, right? When you move with your crowd, I mean, when you move with your crowd from A to B, that's easy because you know where you are. What that's basically you. You start it, you follow what you want, but when you want to attract younger people, you have to understand what they want and bring the offer on the table: music, entertainment, accommodation, transport, food, everything, also to a bar. I mean, you can whine about it that people drink less, but you can do something about it. I mean, offer them something else. It's not only the alcohol that matters at the festival.
Okay. Anything else to add to that?
What I wanted to add to that is you're totally right. If you give an event where you know it's for the younger generation and you know beforehand people will drink less, you need to get out of your costs, and the first solution would maybe be to make your tickets more expensive. But there's always a certain limit. You don't want to have way more expensive tickets than a festival you're competing with. What I would really advise is to, especially with headliners, try to come to a graduated deal. A lot of big acts work with fixed fees nowadays, but there's always some room to maybe come to a graduated deal instead. And what that is instead of a fixed fee, that is just a full fee no matter the ticket sales. I always try to work with like a lower fee, a standard-based fee, and then every time per 1,000 tickets or per 150 tickets, the price goes up a little bit. Really work with a bonus structure. That way you can keep your tickets the same price, but the risk is way lower. You don't have to think beforehand, okay, if I want to get out of my costs and I only get 50-60% show up or ticket buyers, it needs to be a certain price. No, you can still aim for not a sold out, but also don't overpay on the booking budget. Just graduated deals, bonus structures. It's a tip I wish I had a bit sooner.
So we have a few more things to cover, but want to see if there are any questions out there in the audience before we continue. Anybody have any burning questions? Yes, this gentleman right here.
When you're booking artists for a festival, do you stick with, like, say, book 10 artists from one record label? Or do you look for more, I don't know, lots of different artists from lots of different record labels, or individual artists, independent artists? What's your sort of, is there like a strategy?
When it comes to that, there's not really a strategy I think of beforehand, but it's always, especially when I look at club nights, it's always way more interesting to book multiple people from the same roster or the same label, especially if you can make it into a multi-deal where you really, like, we organize events in Belgium, we have all these international brands. You do one good event with them, and then you can look at the deal where you do multiple events with them, but it also stays exclusive for you. And in that way, you can always make like better fees or better deals just based on how many acts from the same agent or the same record label you get. I really like to do label hostings, just because, you know, as a booker, you always try to curate a lineup that really follows up with each other, that's all very aligned, all in the same style, to some extent. But a label already does that kind of for you. So it's very cool to invite a collective, a label or whatever, and they bring all their acts, and you really have this symphony of the symbiosis of the same sound and the same kind of artist in one night. So yeah, it's not something I would do beforehand, but if the chances come around, then it's definitely something I like to look at. Booking multiple acts from the same agent or the same record label. It's always a positive for your booking budget, always.
And sorry, another question. For when you're booking a club night or a festival, what do you look at, like the spread of how big an artist is for the headliner versus like an opener? Like how does that curve work, just based on like budget?
So what we do in Belgium is we actually work with a standard local fee. It's something we agree with multiple agencies who are also local, who are representing a lot of local acts. And we also turn that into a deal. You know, you work together with a local agency who's representing a lot of local acts, and you tell them, look, you have all this multiple artists, they all play a different style. You have one melodic local artist. If I would book a Kulj or a Stefan Botzin or whatever, that's someone I would take on the lineup. They also have some hard techno locals on their roster. When I would book something hard techno, I would take them. And if you can keep on showing towards that agency or towards that collective that, look, I want to work together with you, blah, 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 then you can really stay with a fixed fee for multiple gigs. And I think it's very important to also make that kind of deal because it's well for both sides. The agency or the locals know that they will really have a shot at you if they don't overprice themselves. Plus, I keep my part of the deal and I try to get them as much as I can on the lineup. Yeah, that's kind of my structure.
And a follow-up, sorry, I'm taking too much time. How do you navigate like striking the balance between being able to sell enough tickets by booking someone big enough without losing a shit ton of money?
That's the question, of course.
It's another panel.
I think, I mean, you also have it
that comes with experience, I would say. Yeah. That comes with years of experience and the experience that you usually learn hard way, meaning on a way you have to be ready to lose money. I mean, I saw so many promoters starting big because they thought they know how to do it and they lost shed a lot of money on the first time. And then they said, okay, it's not for me. Because I said, yeah, but you do not have experience. You have to understand the market. You have to understand your event. You have to understand your environment, your city, whatever your country that you deal with. And then you have to understand the calendar. That's also important. There are some weekends that work perfectly, and there are some weekends that will not work whoever you book. Like a long weekend in Poland in May. Everyone goes out of the city. That's the usually first warm weekend in Poland. Everyone goes someone into the forest because that's when they can go out. You can book whomever, and you'll get 50% of the people that the same artist would play in October or February. So, yeah, I would say experience and development of yourself as a promoter, which is important to find out your lessons. There's not golden rule.
But what I can add to that is, as a starting promoter, really look at exclusiveness. It's not because a super big headliner just played 2 insane sets at festivals close to your town that his popularity kind of went up. There always needs to be some kind of exclusivity. It needs to be unique, and it can be overplayed. So what I do is, once the festivals start to announce their lineups, I print them all out, I hand them on a wall, and I really look at, okay, all these acts are playing these festivals in these regions. If I'm working on the calendar for Ghent or Antwerp, Kompass or Garage, or I'm just working on Brussels for Rave Rebels, then I really look at, okay, this headliner or this act I wanted, has he played close or nearby any time beforehand, or is he planning to after? A super huge act can play in Belgium 2 big festivals, but if they are far enough from the city, then I know that it will work in the city as well. Just because, you know, it's also connected, everybody is on his phone, we all see international media, but we also see a lot of local media, and if an artist went really well within a group you're trying to aim for selling tickets, then book the artist again, but try to keep some time between his last set and his coming set at your place.
All right, I think that's all the time we have here. So thank you all for coming. Round of applause for our panelists here.
Thank you.